let's talk about everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel this way too with like how we're treating men and the whole like feminist side of things or women empowerment thing, where we've gone so extreme to where like we don't like when they call us ma'am or open the door for us or whatever. And I always think back to this story about a guy I worked with. I think I told you about it, but he was from Southern Ohio, I think, or a different part of Ohio, where like they were very mannerly and they said miss and ma'am, and that was just how they greeted everyone, because out of like a sign for of respect. And he was working at a Columbus store where there was like many different backgrounds and people coming through there, and he multiple times got like reprimanded by a woman when he would say miss or ma'am or open the door for them. And he was like, I mean, he was innocent. Like he was just confused as to why they were like reacting so strongly. And I feel like I've always seen that with women where they're like, don't call me ma'am, I'm not old. And it's just like, that's so sensitive. Like it's just a sign of respect. And who cares? Why do you care if they called you ma'am? Why are you personally affected by a stranger calling you ma'am? Like, why
Yeah.
aren't they asking themselves that? You know what I mean? Like, we're so easy to blame the other person and make them change their words, make them change how they communicate with people. When for him, it was a good thing. It was because he was respectful of women.
Yeah.
But now women are telling him to not do that and to call them who knows what. Nothing.
Well,
Say,
I feel
hey,
like it's like we for any topic we just say don't do this, don't do this, don't do. Has someone introduced please do this? Like you don't let's say don't call me ma'am cuz I'm my own woman. But have you given me something to call you to show
right.
respect, you
Yeah.
know?
But it's also like an attitude of blame instead of
Right.
responsibility, where it's like the question should just be, why did that bother me? Because why did it? Like that's a real issue. Like
Right.
why would it bother you?
Well, I could
So
see them being like, well, these are new times. We aren't in these old times where you assume I want to be called ma'am. You like those were signs of respect back in the day. They're not signs of respect now. But have you given me new signs of respect?
yeah, but I mean I guess the anthropology side of me comes in, where it's like no matter what the times are now, like everyone's from a different background and culture, that like we can't say what's right or wrong because everyone's so different and because everyone
Right.
has a different way of like being brought up. So it's like what's normal for them might not be normal for us, but we should just try to view it positively instead of this immediate negative reaction of like, oh, they called me ma'am, they think I'm old. You are insecure as hell. Like you need to change something in the way you see yourself in the mirror, because that's not what it means. Like
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know. I feel like we should view it that way instead, because it's more productive. Like we can't control what other people do, but we can control how we react. And I feel like we're losing that. Like we're losing touch with responsibility for ourselves because we're just like blaming, blaming, blaming.
Well, interestingly, I was reading that article and they were saying that before we were in this culture of honor. So basically, you had to earn your honor. So if you disagreed with something, you had to duel. And the responsibility was on you to figure out your own problems, you know? Duel, however, like through an argument or an actual duel. But then at some point, it became this, were dependent on authorities. So we had like, oh, you need to tell us, you need to help us figure this out. But then it wasn't just for high level things. It started being like, well, you need to help us figure out all these little things. Um, so then all of a sudden we were all victims. So it was
Yeah.
called this culture of victimhood. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then like I feel like yeah, that now no one is owning up, like you were
Yeah.
saying, like and just facing things and
Mm-hmm.
like I also think of like the boy who cried wolf. You can't just pick everything and you want changes in the government and they're just there's so much that they're already working on. I'm not just like saying that these things shouldn't be changed, but there's so much they're working on. You want to enact change over every single little thing that happens.
To me
Like,
it's like me going into a restaurant, never having eaten one in one. Maybe I've eaten one once, but I've never worked in one. I've never been around that culture, that community, nothing. I don't know anything about how a restaurant runs, but I see a fry on the ground or a roach in the freaking corner, and now I'm just demanding that everything needs to be changed and fixed, and that you need to fire the owner because the owner's responsible. He should have seen that. Da, 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 da. And I feel like with everything going on, there's so many components and factors involved in every single issue. And people just look at like the one person or the one issue, and like instead of like the process behind it, or like what might need to happen in order to get to this like level, or what, like there's a process to everything, and there's like components to everything. And I feel like people are just kind of like getting upset and generalizing and then focusing on that one thing, when it's like that doesn't help. That's not productive. That's not like a productive way to react to something. It's just an emotional way to react, which isn't going to help. Like,
Right. Well, and then I also feel like, going off of your restaurant example, they're just going off of, well, I read these reviews on Yelp.
Yeah.
Also, like, that's their credibility. And it's like,
Right.
before, you used to have to freaking get things approved to make books, to then use them as a source of knowledge, or like articles need to actually like be approved, and not just whatever this person wrote on social media, I skimmed through it and it's now real. Like,
Yeah.
and then somebody wrote, oh, well, all restaurants have roaches. And now
Right.
you're like, this is now a thing. Like, not saying that it's not a thing, because I will accept a roach is terrible. You should not have roaches in your restaurant. But also patience. Again, with patience. I feel like no one has patience.
Yeah.
Versus this takes time. And yes, it's